Wow, Timmy, our snowman's finally complete. What should we name him? Matt. Hello, everybody. So I have a question for you. What is something you would expect the fellow who wears a hat to do? Some of the answers may be to be super cool and to totally have a girlfriend. I mean, totally. But to kidnap children? That's not one of them. But yet, a certain snowman goes against these expectations. And his name is Frosty. And he has a movie, and I watched it. And it is strange, which is what we will be talking about today. So get your popcorn, get cozy, and hear the joyful and probably illegal tale of Frosty the Snowman. So we fade in to see this big-nosed guy talking about Christmas snow. And due to the events in this movie, I think that by Christmas snow, he's talking about cocaine. Then it cuts to a classroom to see a dude wearing a hat performing magic tricks to children. Now this dude is a hack, so he gets mad and throws his hat, and then the kids get let out for recess. Now the children, as children do, decide to make a snowman, and this is where the story gets weird. Look at the snowman these children made. This thing has legs. I can barely make a ball of snow for the snowman's body. Aw, man. Anyway, they decide that, like most things, this snowman would look better in a hat. And lucky for them, the magician known as Professor Hinkle has a rabbit that somehow takes a hat to them. And when the rabbit jumps on the snowman, now named Frosty's head, Frosty comes to life, and somehow he can speak English but just doesn't know much else about living. Eventually Hinkle comes outside to see that the snowman has indeed come to life using his hat. Now what would you do if you saw that your hat could make things alive? You'd want it back, of course. But the children say that it's Frosty's, which is incredibly wrong because neither Frosty nor the children paid for it. And Hinkle uses the time-tested technique of forcefully taking it back and gaslighting them. So all the kids are sad, but the rabbit is still in Hinkle's hat, so when Hinkle isn't looking, the rabbit just hops the hat back to Frosty. And boom, Frosty's back, but oh no, he's melting now. How will they combat this? Going to the North Pole, of course. So Frosty kinda just takes 6 unattended minors off school ground and on a parade. But oh no, he hits a traffic cop at a faraway street. Now normally, when a cop sees anyone parading 6 school children around the town, there ought to be some questions asked. But this guy is just mad because Frosty ran a red light, which, I guess, a man on a mission. I respect it. But when the cop finds out that Frosty just came to life, he lets him run the red light. Then he realizes that he was talking to a snowman and gets so surprised that he swallows the whistle. Frosty probably made this dude need surgery to remove a whistle from his windpipe. And believe me, I know from experience that that isn't exactly the cheapest process. Anyway, they make it to the train station to get to the North Pole, but they forgot something. Money. Now my big question is, why are they taking a train to go to the North Pole? If the North Pole is indeed where I think it is, probably near Greenland, a train can't go overseas. They're in New York. How does this work? Anyway, Frosty finds a freezer car and breaks into it with one of the kids named Karen, who says she's only allowed to go if she's back by dinner, which considering a flight from New York to Greenland is 6 hours. On a train, I don't think you're making that dinner, Karen. Anyway, the rabbit tagged along in the train and they're off. But there's a 4th person that tagged along. And that person is Professor Hinkle, who is holding on to the bottom of the train. How? And then like somewhere through the train ride, I'm guessing probably northern Canada, they get off because Karen is cold and Hinkle is still holding on. Not only did they manage to warp time and get from New York to northern Canada in what I think would be under 2 hours, but if this is in fact true, Hinkle held on to the bottom of a train for at least 1,000 miles. I can barely hold on to a monkey bar. This guy is nuts. Anyway, let me cut through some parts. Frosty's really good at sledding, the animals help them make a fire to warm up Karen, which Hinkle puts out, and the rabbit goes to contact Santa to bring Karen home. So we end up at a poinsettia house, where Frosty brings Karen to warm her up. But oh geez, 500 IQ Hinkle locks him in, and probably goes to alert a proper authority that there's a man made out of a white substance kidnapping children. But oops, here comes Santa Claus, and he's mad. He opens the door to the poinsettia house, and oh no, Frosty melted. Anyway, Santa pep talks to Karen and brings Frosty back to life with Christmas wind, probably effectively killing all the poinsettias. But now Hinkle is mad. So what do we think would happen to a dude who held onto a train for 1,000 miles to rescue his hat? Well, he's banned from receiving Christmas presents unless he writes, "I'm sorry, Frosty," millions of times. Yet Frosty, the dude who kidnapped multiple kids, stole property, disobeyed traffic laws, broke into a train car in poinsettia house, in warped time, gets off scot-free. What is this movie? That's like if someone kidnapped a dog, stole your underwear, and broke into a warmer. Then you get punished for trying to stop him. That's just not smart. Hinkle accepts his fate and runs home to start writing, but I think he forgot he's in northern Canada and his home is in New York. He probably didn't get over the Ontario border before dying a painful death due to hypothermia. Anyway, Santa brings Karen home at what is probably not dinner time, and Frosty goes back to the North Pole. What's the moral of this story? I don't know. Thanks for watching.